All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is your favorite Warlock, practicing necromancer. And today I want to discuss with you the difference between the old school methods of practice compared to this new age corrupted BS that is called drama filled practices. Okay. First of all, let's take a quick look at what's going on in today's world from a practitioner's perspective. First, you have these pagans and Wiccans coming out as a whole number of things from bis, tris, lesbians, gays, what's the latest one? One of the more recent terms is queers or pans, okay? Asexuals, even. You see it all over social media, okay? And yet they claim to be witches and warlocks, okay? So, first, this has nothing to do with witchcraft. Just want to throw that out there, okay? This has nothing to do with witchcraft. It has nothing to do with your gender. It has nothing to do with your sexual orientation. Magic does not give two shits if you are gay, lesbian, bi, tri, trans, pans, whatever. It does not matter. Okay? So, why are so many individuals, specifically that of this whole new latest movement by the LBG, was it LBGT or Q or something like that? I can't remember exactly what it is offhand. That's trying to make all this movement. And then you have so called Satanists, such as the Satanic Temple, the TST. We speak for everybody's rights, but yet, wait for it, in the same sentence, you're violating our members' rights. So basically, you are living in a form of hypocrisy, duality. It's like these atheistic Satanists that claim to be Satanists and devil worshippers, but yet you don't believe in an actual devil. Wow. How can you call on a being? How do you call on a being for his or her help in your life, for knowledge, for wisdom, for spiritual enlightenment, and for growth, and for guidance? And yet you're going to deny them their very existence at the exact same time. I believe Vococalocus Oriax, who wrote the book of the Black Flame, the Divine Black Flame of Satan, said it best. If you are Satan, does that mean that there are 7 billion Satanists, as in Satans, in the world? today. 7 billion Satans. So much for the balance factor. I mean, pagans sit there and quote the equal armed cross. They talk about balance. They talk about light versus dark, good versus evil. And you got these so-called mediums who are calling themselves mediums, psychics, and demonolators, meaning they're working and choosing to work solely with demons, and yet here we go again, denying that demons are beneficial. Huh. Interesting how that works, right? I mean, you take Melinda Lyons for an example. She supposedly spent 17,000 years in hell, being raped, tortured, and everything unimaginable, according to her own words. You watch her videos. I mean, I shared one of her videos with a friend of mine once who's never even heard of her. He came back and goes, "What the fuck is wrong with this woman? This is ridiculous. I mean, this is the most stupidest thing I've ever seen on Reddit. It was so stupid, it was hilarious." Okay. So, and keep in mind, like I said, I never gave any information. I never said anything. I just shared the video with him. And this was his earnest and honest opinion of Melinda Lyons. Okay. And now supposedly she's got a new page up, and now she's talking shit about Satanists, musicians, and comedians, even tried putting herself in between Johnny Depp and Amber Heard's little bromance there, breakup. Wow. I mean, if you believe that stuff, you're as much of a fool as they are. Let's go to, with that said, even if you go into these so-called ex-Satanists, these so-called ex-Pedo Mayumbi or Santeria practitioners who are now born-again Christians, take John Ramirez as a prime example. This individual went into Santeria before joining Pedo Mayumbi, supposedly. He was supposedly in his 20s by the time he met his so-called wife. And this is according to the dangers of the occult in Santeria. Okay? Santeria in the occult, not Satanism, but occultism and Santeria. Okay? But yet, if you watch his videos, you see his story changes. The age that he got into the so-called practices of devil worship, okay, meaning Santeria and Pedo Mayumbi, okay, to how long he was actually a practitioner before becoming a Christian, how long he dated his wife before marrying her. His story even changed at how long he was a Christian. But yet the only time he shared any tears or waterworks is when he was preaching his little book, Out of the Devil's Cauldron. And yes, I actually have that book sitting right over there for any of you who are inquiring. I've actually read it. I found it humorous and a lot of horse hooey. Okay, meaning bullshit, BS. Okay, welcome to the channel. So Anyways, as I was saying, then you got these so-called ex-priests of Satanism, now born-again Christians. And yes, I was actually asked to do a video on another one. Okay, and just so you know, I have been looking into him and his so-called channel. Found him humorous at best. Okay, so this is what this new age BS is about. It's about segregation. It's about keeping the drama going. It is about keeping people living in fear, suspense. Reminder, the devil's out there coming for your fucking soul, even though he doesn't give two shits about your fucking soul. Just saying. So, knowing all this, knowing that the common practitioner can write a book today and publish it without a third party handy, doesn't make you a practitioner of witchcraft, sorcery, or any tradition. You've got so many different kinds of witchcraft now, from various different colors to even what was it? I saw one just the other day. She's supposedly a the sea coast or sea golf witch. You got the Witch of Wonderland now that's now doing pole dancing, and this is what witchcraft has been reduced to today: pole dancing and strip shows. Yeah, if you want that, just go to a fucking strip joint. That's all I gotta say. Okay, that's all I gotta say there. You want real witchcraft? You want real sorcery? You gotta actually learn and determine who is real and who is not. Okay. Now you take for an example. Let's go into ancient Japanese traditions. I kind of want to touch on this because this is actually something that is historical and today is considered folklore and mythological, not just archaeology in general. You have what is known as the ancient way of Bushido. Okay, you take the Ronin for an example, means wave man. Okay, that's what it translates into. And now, what is a Ronin? A Ronin is a wanderer without a master. Okay, you remember what Belial, his title is, right? Belial from the Goetia. Think about this for just a minute. His name literally translates into one without a master. Okay, one without a master. So a Ronin can be a samurai. Okay, one who has either failed his master, been stripped of rank, and became a wanderer. One who failed in his duties, one who lost his master to death, and so on. Okay, so a samurai could easily become a Ronin, and a Ronin is one that traveled the lands as a practitioner. Some became mercenaries working for money and power. Okay, others became Ronins and became protectors of the people, much like the Knights of Templar used to do before they were demonized. Okay, Akalone, welcome, but my friend. So, anyways, when we take the depiction of what a Ronin is a warrior. A Ronin is a very skilled practitioner in the way of the sword, the way of death. Okay, so when we think about this, okay, when we actually think about a Ronin in this manner, let's take Miyamoto Mushashi for an example. Well-known historical figure. Okay, to this day in Japan. It was said that he fought 1,000 battles. 1,000 battles. Can you imagine fighting 1,000 battles, 1,000 fights, 1,000 duels? in winning every single one of them. Every single one. Okay. Now he went on to become a Ronin. And as he was wandering the lands, he found out that he had cancer and was dying. So, what does anybody do when they find out they're terminally ill or that they have no future in that way? They always seek guidance from within. So, he turned spiritual. So, you went from the ancient way of Bushido into Shintoism. Okay. Shinto was the spiritual path working within Japanese tradition. And trust me when I tell you that they are very spiritual in that connotation, okay, in that notion, and in every single meaning of that word, okay. And we see this type of thing within other traditions as well, because unlike when we look at Musashi and his journey into spiritualism, he literally went up the mountain and meditated, wrote the scrolls known as the Book of Five Rings. And he separated the five levels of self within a spiritual, physical, emotional, and mental perspective of the way that he knew of his life. He literally became the first monk, if you will, the first Buddhist monk, if you will, in that arena. And it was interesting because the monks have been known in Japanese traditions for hundreds of years. They were actually considered some of the most powerful and potent warriors that the emperor had at his disposal. I mean, samurai soldiers wouldn't even dare. They lost their balls to the point where when they were in front of a temple, they wouldn't even go into that temple. They would not even cross that line. And it's interesting because of the fact that, in the same like manner, kings didn't even go against the church in European traditions. How many, almost 800 years that the Knights of Templar were around? Wow. Kings, armies, they didn't want to go up against the church. The Knights of Templar were literally the soldiers in the army of the church, of the Vatican. You look at the Hashishin, for an example. The Hashishin, Middle Eastern tribal, almost like a nomad, nomad type of foundation. They had castles, just like the Knights of Templar. But these were more Islamic traditions. They were highly skilled in combat. They were highly religious priests that their founder literally dates back to the Shem priesthood of the third dynasty, okay, of Egypt, nonetheless. Very, very interesting to see, okay. And what's interesting here is I'm trying to show you this because it's not just in Eastern or Western philosophy, it is not just in European traditions, the old world traditions. A samurai would rather take a dagger and embowel himself and then have his head cut off in honor because he was a warrior. That was considered to be an honorable death. Whereas a Hashishin assassin, Samsara, in Arabic means assassin, okay, literally was so feared. They were so feared that people did not want to go up against them. It wasn't until the 12th century when the Huns came in and invaded the territory that they were wiped out. The Vatican turned on the Knights of Templar after the Second Crusade, Some say after the third, but history only teaches two of them, right? Hmm. Interesting how that works. Guess it pays to be the victor, huh? So you better not be the loser. So, anyways, as I was saying, then we go into the mystical arts titles, such as warlocks. Wiccans and pagans today go by the Anglo Saxon and Welsh definition. This means liar, betrayer, oathbreaker, and what it is subscribed to as somebody who decides, okay, I've learned everything I can in this coven. I'm going to seek enlightenment, say, over there in that coven. Okay? This made them a warlock because they betrayed their oath to the coven. It was no longer about keepers of the sacred knowledge. Okay? If you actually take the time to study what a witch and a warlock is, they were considered to be keepers of the sacred knowledge of healing, of curses, of magic, and the seasons and everything. They were the ones that was in charge of telling you when would be the best place. The when it would be the best time to grow your crops, or okay, let's say for example we use a hula hoop today for our children, right? Well, back in the Paleolithic era, if somebody rolled one of those across and another soldier threw a spear and that spear went through the dead center while it was rolling, it would have been considered a successful hunt, and they would go out and they would hunt. Okay, tradition, symbolatry. Okay, look at the horned god of Greek mythology, meaning Pan, half man, half goat, horns on his head, right? Playing the magical flute as the nymphs were frolicking around a fire. Doesn't that sound a lot like the witch's Sabbath? Hmm, interesting, huh? Or how about the apostolics? The apostolics and the Pentecostals. I mean, think about this. They jump up and down during their services, they run around their pews. Is that not considered a variation of frolicking? How about worshiping and praying? Is that not considered idol worship? I mean, you're worshiping a cross. You're worshiping a dead man, okay? And Catholicism and Catholicism, mainstream JCI, Judo Christian institutions. You're at an altar, just like a pagan, Wiccan, warlock, does, like a necromancer or a shaman. You're at an altar. You're praying to your god or gods. So, how could that be any different than what the old school practices did, right? Well, let's get into this. So, knowing that a warlock was considered to be a liar, a betrayer, and an oath breaker, let's go into other regions. European traditions, the shaman, medicine man, healer, one who spent a lifetime in solitude, selling their services for monetary gain. Furs were traded, fish were traded if they did not have the money or the currency at that time to pay for the service of that practitioner. These people were sought out in tribal communities such as that of Africa. A witch or a warlock would be living right next door to the tribal king. They were highly respected, highly sought after, especially for just about everything from political to hunting to marriage. to childbearing and even sicknesses in general, ailments. Look at how much knowledge was lost due to the Crusades, through all these wars, both religious and political warfare practices. How many lost their lives in the name of God? And yet the Bible in itself says, "Thou shalt not murder." Huh. And yet it's full of murder. It's full of rape. It's full of incest. It's full of genocide, betrayal, even. And yet thousands of people choose to frolic to that religion because they believe it's the correct religion. They indoctrinate little children. Don't even give them a chance to find their own path or to be children. Nope, can't allow that. We can't allow you to have a mind of your own. So here it is. Satanism has been around since the 18th century. Sloane was the very first, outside of the Hellfire Club, the Order of the Nine Angles, I might add, 18th century. In the early 19th century, about 27, if I'm not mistaken, 26, 27 area, Sloane created a coven, a satanic coven in Michigan. Oh, I'm sorry, did I just burst your bubble, OCOS practitioners? That's right. Church of Satan, founded by Anton Zander LaVey. You are not the first coven. You are not the first church. Sorry to burst your bubble. But here it is. Sloane had his own coven from 1920s to 1980s. The COS transferred its power from being devil worshipping to agnostic to modern day atheistic viewpoints. Huh. Kind of reminds you of the church, right? The main church. You go back to the old ways, going back to the 11th century, the 10th century, 11th century, all the way up to the 13th century. They were highly religious, fanatics. I'm talking zealotry. The witch trials. You go further into the 1604 period through the colonies, and you see the same level of belief in God. So much so that they put how many people to death through the burning times? Wow. I mean, you look back going hundreds of years. Name one war that wasn't fought in the name of Jehovah, of Allah, of Yahweh, of Yeshua, of Jesus. I can't think of one. And that's going all the way back to the 6th century BC. 6th century BC. I've traced necromancy all the way to that point. Necromancy today is considered the number one most feared, blackest magics out there. And that's according to the Catholic Church. The Catholic Church. Even the Bible says not to be around necromancers, soothsayers, diviners, idol worshippers, adulterers. Wow. How many churches today still do this? I'm talking breaking the commandments. And you think you're in your God's good graces? No. Sorry, you're not. You're not even in my good graces. So here it is. If we go back to the 6th century, we see a practitioner in Swedish witchcraft known as the hexa. That's Haxa. Haxa. The hexa. It means witchcraft. Okay? Witchcraft. And it's also a practitioner. Now, 70% of these practitioners were witches, female, but there's also 30% that were male practice. Yeah, can't speak right now. I apologize. But I've also been up since 2 a.m. too, so it's been almost 12 hours. I had to be to work at 4 a.m. this morning. So, anyways, warlocks were practitioners in Sweden. Okay. These were associated with Hungarian, Slavic, Slovakian, and all that entire region of practices within sorcery. It isn't until you get to the Middle Eastern that you get into things like the mage or the sage. Okay, when you get into European, down into, say for an example, Egyptian, you see the necromancer. The two oldest traditions that I have found to this day is shamanism and necromancy. They work with the spirits, the dead, and they do this in a number of different ways. They use the same tools, the same forms of magic, but yet it is the very usage of that magic that separates them. That separates them. So by the time we get into things like Romanian witchcraft or that of, say, Italian witchcraft, we see the strega. The strega are, or the stregoi, vampiric practices, which is very similar. Don't get them mixed up. Okay, and I'll touch base on that in a little bit too. But it's these practitioners were mostly female. They were gypsy associated magics. I mean, there are those online today that are constantly doing live videos on YouTube. Okay, on YouTube, making $1 million per ritual. Can you imagine $1 million per ritual? Fame and fortune, and people wonder where this whole Illuminati bullshit comes in. This is why, because people have forgotten that this used to be a solitary path working. It was about you, not the fucking world. It wasn't about religion. It wasn't about philosophy. It was about enlightenment and practices and learning. So you see these strega today compared to the old ways. They were highly feared in the old days. Black magic, sorcerers, sorceresses. The strigoi were vampiric based practices. They were into blood sorcery and like the blood mage. Okay. So you see all of this stuff, you see where people used to make the bond, the brotherhood bond of bloodletting techniques. They don't even have the fucking balls to do that today. It's now considered harmful to self. It's psychologically immoral. Immoral, even. You're hurting yourself. Oh my God, you gotta have something wrong with you. Yeah, have some meds. Wow. And yet, if you actually take the time to study the very practices, phlebotomy is what it's called today. Phlebotomy. The extraction of blood, the study of blood. But yet you go back 300 years, 500 years, blood sorcery became hemomancy. Hemomancy practices were associated with vampiric practices, which were also aligned with necromantic practices. It was said because of the Da'ath energy, the Da'ath energy, the death essence. Practitioners lived in pain. So, to ward off this decay and this pain, they would infuse blood into their rituals. But yet, in some cases, we see the phylactery coming into play, an object of sheer power that took the brunt of that Da'ath energy. Things like the talisman or the amulet, a relic, even. Interesting, right? So then we go down into Egypt and we see the Shem priesthood. The Shem priesthood was a religious foundation that had numerous different levels and rankings of priests that, much like the Catholic Church today, that had their own unique duties. One class dealt with the public, another class was responsible for religious worship, another class was responsible for keeping the temple clean, and then you had those responsible for doing rites and rituals such as utilizing the Egyptian Book of the Dead. Okay, I'm talking morgue type stuff, such as embalming the body. They would call on Anubis, for an example, and they would mummify the body. They would cleanse the body. They would remove the four major organs that they believed that the individual would utilize if they ever came back to the land of the living, while somebody else was mummifying them from the feet up. And it was very amazing to see how skillful these priests were in their duties. They were so dedicated that even they were run out of town at times. The Shem priesthood existed between the first, second, and third dynasty of Egypt. They utilized things such as the water bowls for divination purposes. They utilized prayer and incense and a whole bunch of other things that were very, very interesting, which I'm not going to go into in this video. But let's go to Haitian Voodoo. Okay. Today we also see what is known as the Caplata, which is a female practitioner. This is a witch. Okay. Whereas the Bokor is considered a warlock, a male practitioner of sorcery, and they deal with the Loa just like a Hungan or a Mambo. Okay, even a Babalawi, if you will, the council, medicine man, witch doctor, or whatever term you want to go by, which goes back to very primal views of Egyptian practice. And it's interesting because of the fact that when you see this, you have Hungans and Mambos, mamas and papas, depending if you're in Haitian Voodoo, Haitian Voodoo communities or that of the Dominican Republic. They sell them their services, they peddle their cures and all that stuff. But yet the Bokor in Caplata, the Boko, if they did this, they were considered outcasts, just like the warlocks of European study and practice, just like the Shem priesthood or the Hashishin, okay, the Knights of Templar, even, okay. So you're seeing a pattern unfolding as we move forward. So we see where they utilize things such as cadavers, the lick, the galik. They deal with herbalism, spell castings, spiritualism. They work with demons. The petro spirits, which were classified as demons and demonic. The hierarchy and the descent into the underworld, just like Homer and Homer's Odyssey, or Dante's Inferno, if you will. So you see that same classification of where they are selling their services, they're selling their cures, their rituals, and their rites. You even see people today like Bokor, Leonard, and Mira, and I've got a lot of respect for him. Okay, this is a man that actually you can tell that he knows his stuff because he doesn't get involved in drama. He's not out there making a splash for popularity and fame. No, he's looking at it as a business. He's doing his job for the communities. Okay, that's something I respect. The fact that this man has actually shown some of his rituals, not just some of his own reading materials, things that have benefited him in his career. This is why I recommend him to my clients and to my apprentices and just about anybody who wants to get to know what these practices involved from a psychological perspective to a medical perspective down to a religious perspective, not just a warrior class. Now, even if you get into Latin America, you have the Marimberos, you have the Brujo and the Brua. Okay. Now, a Brua is a female practitioner that literally people will warn their kids don't associate. Very bad mojo, bad person, evil. But yet, a Brujo chooses to isolate himself, basically severing that silver cord with the public, with civilization. Okay, and this is where it gets interesting because a lot of people don't realize this when you get into things like brujeria and that of Pero Mayambi and Santeria. Okay, is a brua chooses to associate with the community. She tries to help them to perform rituals and rites, just like the Shem priesthood did back in the first, second, and third dynasty of Egypt. The only difference is that like them, she's run out of town, she's shunned, she's dubbed evil, and sometimes even attacked, persecuted even. Okay, and it's interesting because the Bruo, on the other hand, chooses to isolate, basically saying, "I'm not going to wait for you to shun me. I already shunned your ass. I told you to take a fucking hike. I'm going to run my store, my botanica. I'm going to help my clients, those who seek me out for my services, and I'm going to say, fuck off to the world." Love that about the Bruo. Love that about the Bokor. Love that about the Warlocks. Love it. Okay. Necromancers are solitary practitioners in nature. We our solitude because we spend most of our time studying and learning and growing and mastering not only ourselves but our world, and we spend a lot of time in the spiritual world. We do a lot of things on fasting. You probably noticed I'm getting thinner. This month of June, I've been doing a lot of fasting. I've been doing a lot of cleansing of myself and doing a lot of rites and rituals. So it's interesting to see how the archetype of the depictions remain the same. It doesn't matter if you're in Eastern or Western philosophies. It doesn't matter if you're into what tradition or magical study that you're into, practice wise. These connotations are still there. And it creates a form of segregation. It creates subversions and division in the communities, all because one group claims to be the ones with the power. Their word goes, and everybody eats it up like fucking candy. I mean, go back to 1998 and you see what is known as the rape of Dukun. Okay. Now, what is a Dukun? A Dukun is an Indonesian shaman. They do the same thing as a Brua or Bruo. Okay, just like a El Necromante or a Diablero, you know, stuff like that. But the difference is they deal with healing mostly, but they can do curses, hexes, and jinxes. They can, all they need is an object like a lock of your hair, a photograph or something to hone in on and create that link between the spell and the target or the victim. All right. Now, in 1998, everything that went wrong in Indonesia, in Malaysia, and the surrounding islands was blamed, shocker. Have we not learned from history? Okay. Shocker here. Um, was blamed on the Dukun. Just like the Black Plague or any diseases, the fact that cattle don't want to produce milk, like say locusts descend on the region. Guess what? It's a witch, it's a warlock. They did it. They're devil worshippers. They're evil. Burn, baby, burn. Okay, that's what I'm talking about. The same thing happened, but instead of doing things through a court of law, the civilians literally took things into their own hands. And I believe it was like 150 to 300 Dukun were butchered, murdered by the community that they served. All because Christianity says they're evil, they're devil worshippers. But yet one person who's mentally ill picks up a book and says, "Oh, I want to make a blood pact with Lucifer's Raphael," and kills two women in a park. Associated on a web link for 2 weeks. Has nothing to do with an organization whatsoever. The owner of that organization gets shunned from public appearances. And I've spoken on this before. I'm not a big fan of Bog, how to become a living god. But primary example, a witch hunt. A witch hunt. All it takes is one accusation. And in this case, it was a journalist from the BBC News. One accusation. And yet, if you actually look at E.A. Koetting's videos, he's actually done one where his house is. He did one where his office is. Live videos. But yet this BBC News journalist went to a pink house. A pink house. Oh, E.A. Koetting's not there. E.A. Koetting's not there. Wow. Are you sure you actually have the right foundation? The right house? But yet you're going to make an accusation saying he told him to. Isn't that the classist psychosis for the devil told me to do it? Or how about we go back to the Garden of Eden? She gave it to me. Wow. The original sin is a woman taking an apple and listening to a snake. A snake. It says, "Oh, you're not going to die. You'll surely live. Eat, eat." But yet, as soon as she became enlightened, "Oh, I gotta go to my husband and go, hey, have this." Well, all of a sudden, oh my God, we're naked. We got to hide from God. We're ashamed of ourselves. Well, why were you hiding? Did you not hear me calling? Oh, we're naked. We had to hide ourselves. We had to, put fig leaves on. Wow. So the natural body became illegal to invile from that point on. But yet the most hilarious thing is the punishment for the serpent for revealing the truth was to slither for all time on its belly. I don't know about you, but a snake has no arms, no legs, just scales, right? How the fuck is a serpent going to walk? Isn't it doing already what it's made to do? What it was born to do, which was to slither on its belly? Hmm. Interesting, right? Interesting. So here we see all these practices dealing with animal sacrificing, human sacrificing, Christianity in general. Okay, go back into Jewish folklore, traditions, Hebrew traditions. You're going to see human and animal sacrificing. Look at the Yom Kippur rite, for an example. Jewish custom, even today, of what has been classified in the biblical Bible as being the scapegoat versus the unblemished one sacrificed to God. They still do this shit during this so-called Yom Kippur ritual. Okay, and what it is you have a rocky terrain. Okay, you have individuals standing at certain locations down it, and they send this spotted goat down over it. And what they do is they report back at how far that goat got before its legs were so cut up that it couldn't move, it couldn't walk, and then they had to sacrifice it. They basically let it die. Okay, you remember the story in the Bible, for those of you who have actually read the Bible, of the swine in Legion. Okay, the water. Okay, just think about that for just a minute. Why did the why did Legion have to go into the swine? Because it needed a host, right? Okay. Well, if is that image of the host not your God? Interesting, right? But wait for it. Let's go back to the book of Deuteronomy, known as or not the book of Deuteronomy, but the book of Leviticus, also known as the book of the law. How many rituals and rites did the Jewish and Hebrew peoples practice? For you have the sin offerings, the burnt offerings, and now remind me what they did with the animal. You had it tied up, you bled it dry, you ripped its guts out, laid it on the altar in the inner tabernacle, I might add. The carcass is left out in the middle of the fucking sun to stink the place up. Okay? All the blood is put in a gauntlet, a cup, and your God supposedly gets turned on and aroused by this? Just saying. This is an actual rite that's in your Bible. The book of Leviticus. Look into it. I kid you not. And yet, if somebody in Wudan, for an example, decides to cut a head off a goat or a sheep, it's animal cruelty. They've committed an act of aggression against an animal, and therefore they're deemed vile and arrested and persecuted. Medical doctors today can draw your blood legally, but yet you are not permitted to do it yourself through, say, bloodletting devices such as the butterfly or a lancet, a diabetic lancet. How about those little tubes that you can fill up with blood? But yet that's considered harming yourself for doing the same goddamn thing that they're doing. But everybody's going, nah, we're going to point fingers. Point fingers. We're right, you're wrong. Fuck you. I say you're both wrong. Learn your history. Learn mythology. Trust me, you'll be better off for it. So, I mean, if you want to be hypocrites, you want to waste time, that's on you. You want to be a part of the world, feed into those dramas, that duality, that subjugation, setting up divisions. So that's on you. You go feed that little serpent. That's on you. Don't come near me. I don't want you in my life because I shun you. I'm going to live in reality and I'm going to learn, grow, and mature in my practices. And I will help those that really want to learn, those that need help. Seriously. I'm not going to waste my time on drama queens. I'm not going to waste my time on individuals that want to waste my time. And trust me, I've come to identify you quite well. And I'm not joking about that. I won't even accept your friend request because I want nothing to do with you. Now, if you want to learn, you want to come to me for my services, I'll gladly do the rights for you. There's a price for everything. Not joking. A price. I charge $300 for my rituals. Love spells, that's $400. $150 for just an hour consultation. You want to get serious? We'll talk. You want to live in duality and hypocrisy? Get the fuck out. There's the door. Don't let it hit you in the ass. Don't waste my time. Because I will not reply to you. I'll reply to those that actually are earnestly seeking guidance, seeking my help. I'm not in it for power. I'm not in it for fame and fortune. I could give two shits about that. I'm in it for the knowledge and the wisdom. Self-enlightenment, self-betterment. Down below, you'll notice in the description box, I have 7 things in there. 7. If you go underneath Facebook, since a lot of you have asked in the past for me to create a Pantheon page, here on YouTube, I'm not permitted yet to do so because I don't have the subscribers. Because each year YouTube has decided, oh, we're going to jack it up. So they jack it up, and it takes a lot longer for somebody like me to gain those subscriptions and subscribers and stuff like that. So, because I'm not on all the time, so a lot of people will sit there and go, oh, well, why don't you create a Pantheon page? Well, you can't if you don't have the subscribers. So basically, I went to Odyssey, and I created an Odyssey account. It's actually linked to my YouTube account, so I can actually go right there, and all my videos are right there. But if you go underneath Facebook and you go underneath pages, okay, type in Brujo Angelus. That's Angelus. Okay, my page will come up. Okay, I finally got around to creating a page, a business page. It's got my prices on there. It's got some posts that I've been posting lately. It's only been up for, what's it been now? 2-3 days, I think, 3 or 4 days. It's been within the last week. Let's just leave it at that. So I did, like I said, I know a lot of you have been encouraging, and I actually had a conversation with Eric Coetting, and he actually brought it up. And it's like, okay, I've got my followers asking me for this. He's suggesting it's a good idea. My own elders are telling me that it might be a good idea to do. I might as well just fold and freaking do it. So I thought about it, I meditated about it, and I created the page. So for right now, that's the only way you're going to be able to get in touch with me. You can send money, your money and donations and stuff through that page there. You can it's tied into my PayPal account for my business, Black Magician for Hire. You can actually go underneath PayPal and type my name in, and you can actually get it. Go through my email. which is myhson35 Okay. Keep in mind that don't email me at that email. Okay. Because I won't reply to you through that. I will go through your account through my PayPal account, which is tied into this particular page, Brujo Angelus. Okay. Now, Angelus is my practitioner name, and it is actually goes back to the 11th century, which translates into prayer. Okay, worship, which is kind of cool since Abaddon was the one that actually gave me that name, an honor, I might add. But my point is that now is the page that I will be doing my business on. So if you want to get in contact with me, LK, and actually want my services, I recommend starting off with a consultation. You can ask as many questions as you want. I give you a full hour. I actually sit there and I do cartomancy readings while you and I are discussing things on the phone. Okay, or in a live video, because we can also do live chats, say Facebook video, or we can talk over the phone in person. Okay, so I do a lot of cartomancies. I always do anywhere from 6 readings to 8 readings, and I look for the most common cards that are coming up, and that's normally the message that you're seeking to hear from the spirits. So that's how I normally do it. But that would be how you and I would be able to communicate in that manner. Okay, so go through that page. I've actually did a post here on YouTube sharing that link here on my YouTube channel. It was actually a post and one of those what do they call that, a text post, where I put the link in the description there. And you asked for it, you got it. Okay, so but yeah, so if you need my services or you want my services, go to that page and we'll talk. All right. As for now, I want to thank LK for jumping on here with me. I want to thank Accolone for jumping on here with me. Leo Blandford, I want to thank you for jumping on here with me. It's always an honor to associate with like minded individuals that are serious about their practices and enlightenment. And for those of you who are coming on after, I want I want to thank you for jumping on here and watching my videos. If you like what you see and you want to know more, hit the subscribe and like button. It's up to you. Feel free. You'll be notified when I'm on. And with that said, have a good day. And until next time.